What's up, everybody, and welcome into another video. I'm Peter Tragos, the lawyer you know, and we are jumping into a brand new case today that a ton of you have been sending me. And I've kind of been waiting till I feel like there's something I can add to it and discuss about the law and the criminal justice system and how it works. And it seems like now is a good time as we are up to 7 different suspects who have been indicted and had their arraignment in the Preston Lord case. He is a teenage boy who was beaten, and eventually his life was lost because of that beating. And it has taken months and months for them to indict everybody involved. We don't even know if they're done indicting people, but they've indicted 17, 18, 19, and 20-year-olds, up to 7 at this point, that were involved in his death. In today's video, we're going to listen to some synopsis about what's going on, what people are saying about the case, why it's taken so long. We're going to hear from some of the prosecutors. We're going to hear from some of the defense attorneys. We're going to look at just some quick clips of some of the arraignments. All 7 suspects at this point have pled not guilty, and their bail amounts, I think, are all at $1 million. There were some arguments about reducing some of their bail amounts, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about why they haven't been reduced at this point. Maybe they will in the future, but this is just one to kind of jump in, see what's going on in this case, how we got here, why we are here, and what we think is going to happen in the future, legally speaking, as part of the criminal justice system in this case. And of course, I will answer your questions that you leave in the comments. So hit that like button. It lets me know that this is content and this is a case you're interested in. If you're not, just let me know in the comments and we'll move on to the next one. If this is one that you're interested in, hit that like button and let me know in the comments. And also let me know by subscribing to our channel to make sure that you are here for all of the cases that discuss the content you're interested in, because your questions and your thoughts on this case as potential jurors, wherever you guys are, you are potentially a juror in that jurisdiction. So I love to hear how you look at a case, what you think is important or not important. And it really helps as we dive into these new cases together. So let's jump into the first clip that we're going to watch. That gives us an idea as to what's going on, what took so long, and where we think we're going from here. This was from a couple days ago.
Preston Lord murder case. A total of 6 people now have been indicted in the fatal beating of the Queen Creek teen.
And we're learning
Hold on. Let me slow it down.
more now about those suspects. Fox 10 investigator Justin Lum joining us live now from the county attorney's office with the latest tonight. Justin.
Mark, Christina, County Attorney Rachel Mitchell announced 2 more people indicted today. This comes a little more than 4 months after that Halloween party in the East Valley turned into a tragedy. Court documents are sealed at.
So it was a party. Teenage boys get in a fight. Somebody ends up dead. What happened? Why is it taking so long? And kind of wild that 7 different people were indicted, and their charges range from kidnapping to first-degree murder, but they're all charged with it. So it's not just one person that, did the beating and everybody else was just standing watching, or maybe it is, and they're just all accomplices to first-degree murder. We're going to have to see exactly what happened. A lot of these court documents are sealed because there are juveniles involved, some 17-year-olds. A lot of them are being charged as adults. I think all of them will eventually be charged as adults if they haven't already. So we don't have access to all the court documents just yet, but as they trickle out, we'll continue to talk about them. There is one page I do want to show from a court document a little later in the video.
This time, so there is a lot that we don't know still about what happened on that night, but we do know that 3 young men and 3 juveniles are accused of murder.
And now it's up to 7. So he was talking about 6, but now just a couple days later, we're up to 7 indicted.
Kidnapping.
And he said, in addition to the first-degree murder charge, there are kidnapping charges, which is also weird. How are we going to get to kidnapping? What did they do? Did they actually kidnap him? Or are they charging that they picked him up, took him from one spot to the next? And now we're going to see some of the clips from some of the some of the arraignments where they read them what they're charged with and they plead not guilty.
Son, a brother, a grandson, a nephew, a cousin, and a friend to many. Everyone who knew him loved him.
This is the victim, and this is the state talking about the victim when talking about why these young men and teens need to be held either with $1 million bond or maybe no bail at all. They ended up getting $1 million set as their bail amount.
A statement from the parents of Preston Lord read in court by their lawyer. All eyes on 18-year-old William Hines, 20-year-old Dominic Turner, and 19-year-old Taylor Sherman.
All the defendants involved in assaulting Preston ran after he was beaten.
at a Halloween party in Queen Creek.
So everybody involved ran after he was beaten. And there are a lot of little facts we're going to get in this just 4-minute clip that was cut all together that kind of lets us know where we're at and how the criminal justice system uses these facts, how they got them. And these are things that are going to develop as the case goes on. But it's been, months and months. It was a Halloween party. So that's the end of October. So it's at about 4+ months that all of this has been going on. So what's taken so long? Is there a lot of evidence to work through? It seems simple if somebody beat up a kid, but maybe it's not so simple.
Last October, 16-year-old Preston Lord was found on the road, beaten badly, and taken to a hospital with life-threatening injuries before his death 2 days later. Prosecutors say suspects tried to destroy evidence in the case. Taylor Sherman's lawyer tried to get his bond lowered.
Mr. Sherman has no criminal history whatsoever. He's 19 years old. He is employed and his family is not wealthy.
After a month.
So what did he say there? He said he's only 19, young. That usually helps get the bond lowered or the bail lowered. He's got a job. No criminal history is a huge one. And his family's not wealthy. So why does that matter? Well, another suspect in this case whose family is wealthy, there were some rumblings that he had maybe fled or that they left the country or the state or the jurisdiction. But it turns out he has been indicted. He has been arraigned. And he has been arrested, but his family is known for being wealthy. So kind of dealt with differently. What is the likelihood that this person may flee? Wealth and money and opportunity to flee has a lot to do with that. So that is something that's taken into account. Although this attorney's doing his job trying to get the bail amount lowered, sounds like it did not work because bail stayed at $1 million from everything I've read and everything that's been reported.
Months-long investigation, Queen Creek police say Hines, Turner, Sherman, along with 17-year-olds Talon Renner, Talon Vigil, and Jacob Meisner are involved in Lord's murder. The Maricopa County Attorney's Office reviewed 2,000 pieces of evidence, including 600 videos, before
2,000 pieces of evidence from a fight, including what? 600 videos. So in a world of World Star, I don't even know if that's still a thing anymore, but when I was younger, the people filming fights and posting them, all the fights being posted on social media, these kids are high school, college-age kids. Every single one of them probably has a phone. When a fight breaks out, everybody pulls out their phone and starts filming. So when you have 600 different videos of different angles showing different people involved, different witnesses, you can start to understand now how a prosecuting attorney and an investigator have to take time to comb through them. See who the suspects are. See who's actually throwing punches. See who's actually involved, holding somebody down, grabbing somebody, pulling somebody, pushing help away, keeping the crowd away so they couldn't have helped Preston. I don't know. We don't know exactly what those videos showed, but they had to watch 600 videos and look through 2,000 pieces of evidence. That's a lot of work and takes a lot of time, which is why, everybody's frustrated with how slow the process moves, but you want to make sure you get the right person or people that committed the crime and all of the people that are culpable of committing this crime. And so that's what the state is saying they did in this case. And at the end of the day, I think Preston Lord's family is going to be happy if they get, not happy is the wrong word, is going to be satisfied if they get everyone involved and bring everyone to justice that deserves this justice.
Before presenting its case to an investigative grand jury, County Attorney Rachel Mitchell spoke to KTAR News this morning.
This was massive. There were so many potential witnesses and witnesses involved. No one thing.
Hines was already in.
So she's saying it was no one thing, but there were, and it's this video skips a little bit, but there was no one thing and there were tons of witnesses involved. And as lawyers, we have to go through that. We have to talk to all the witnesses because especially if they're saying, Preston Lord did something to provoke this and maybe it's no crime at all. Did he have a weapon? Did he do X, Y, and Z? All of that stuff is important to talk to the witnesses, get all the stories straight, and figure out who is the culpable party or parties.
3 cases of aggravated assault stemming back to November of 2022, including a fight at a Gilbert In-N-Out the next month.
So a couple of these
documents say
of these suspects have other prior charges, and some of them of the violent kind, which this one is. And they talk about how he was saying stuff like step up on me, advance towards the victim, and ends up getting in these fights, and they're going to highlight parts of it, but that's not good. And that you're a lot more likely to be held with a higher bail amount if you have other violent crimes or allegations in your past, which he seems to have.
Caught on video punching a victim 10 times and told police earlier this year that he was part of a group of friends with a reputation. This development.
So he kind of is bragging about his reputation and has already been accused of punching a victim more than 10 times. Again, we don't know exactly the nature of this fight, but probably similar. We'll see if there's some kind of Williams rule evidence that this guy commits these kinds of crimes, or similar fact evidence that comes in against any of these potential, I shouldn't say potential suspects, they are suspects, and now people charged with this crime and criminal defendants at this point.
In the Lord case comes as Gilbert PD reopened several cases of violent teen assaults. Queen Creek Police Chief Randy Bryce says there's been collaboration between both agencies.
There's a lot of crossover in individuals that either know each other or involved in our case and their cases. While again, I can't say this enough, is while I understand that the Gilbert Goons and that moniker is a real point of part of what we're seeing out here, and an important piece of that, our focus was specifically on the individuals involved in Preston's death.
So the Gilbert Goons, or the bigger overarching teen violence, maybe with this group or other groups in the area, is something that law enforcement wants to crack down on. It's something that the public has had a push for. And, you know, I believe there have been clips of the victim's family thanking the public for not just letting this go, continuing to push for justice, not allowing teen violence. We've talked a lot about school shootings, unfortunately, and how that's just a epidemic running across our country. Well, teen violence is as well. And this is a case that's highlighting it. Unfortunately, it was not able to be highlighted and nipped in the bud before Preston Lord lost his life. But maybe that is something good that can come from something so horrible, in that the world can be safer for teens, and we can crack down on teen violence, crack down on fighting, crack down on guys beating each other up, beating to a bloody pulp, or beating someone literally to death, like what happened to Preston Lord in this case. So that's something that this case is highlighting. And I think that one of the reasons a lot of you sent this to me is public perception and understanding and knowledge and access to this being a real problem, and these kids not ending up in jail after beating victims, and videos of them punching somebody 10 times because they're young or because they're wealthy or whatever it may be. They end up back out there until it goes so far to another teen losing their life. He said a lot of people know each other and are connected. We don't know if that has to do with Preston. He said he focused on Preston. I know that there's a part of this that a gold chain was stolen, and it wasn't Preston's gold chain, and it wasn't him that stole it, but maybe he confronted the people that stole it, and that's what started the fight. There's some ambiguous discussion about that. We'll look at a court document in a few minutes to see what they say about that. But the point is, this is something stupid that teenage boys fought over, and it ended horrifically.
On Wednesday, Queen Creek police swarmed the White Wing community in Gilbert with an arrest warrant for Talon Renner. The Renner name is familiar. Talon's father, Travis, was recently arrested on drug charges, and his older brother, Kyler, was arrested on multiple charges, including aggravated assault linked to a parking garage attack. It's important to note Travis and Kyler have not been accused in the Preston Lord case.
So they're just talking about how some of these suspects even have, you know, crime in the family, which, you know, probably irrelevant to this, but it's a news station. So they're just discussing some of the connections. If you've heard their names in the past, if you're from the area, from the community.
Mitchell says her office is not done with this investigation.
If we find evidence that is sufficient to bring those charges, we will bring those charges.
So there may be more. They might not be done. And at the time of this video, which was a few days ago, they weren't done. There were 6. Now there's 7.
And again, Queen Creek PD did recommend charges for 7 people in total. We will update you on whether or not that last person is charged. Meanwhile, Hines, Turner, and Sherman will be arraigned on the 13th. Currently, they are held on a $1 million cash bond.
And that was yesterday, the 13th, and that bond is still $1 million and was not reduced from everything I've read.
At MCAO, Justin Lum, Fox 10 News.
Justin, thank you. And here's a look at the timeline of events leading up to those arrests that were made just yesterday. So October 28th is when Preston Lord was assaulted outside of a Halloween party that happened in Queen Creek. And then 2 days later, Let's take a look here. On October 30th, Preston Lord died at Phoenix Children's Hospital. On December 28th is when we first learned that Queen Creek police had submitted charges against 7 people. Now, remember, at this point, we know 6.
Again, it was more like 2 months than 4, but people were crying out in the public, what's taking so long? Are you not going to do anything about this either? Teen violence is a big issue. Well, they were. And 2 months to go through 2,000 pieces of evidence and 600 videos is really not that long of a time.
Have been arrested. So another one could come here with that number 7. And then on February 14th, the autopsy report finally came in, something that County Attorney Rachel Mitchell has said they really needed for this case to move forward in any way. So for people that were saying this has been taking a long time or a long time coming, she says they needed that information first. And then yesterday.
So then March 6th is when the indictments came down. So they knew they were going to charge these people in December 28th, but they needed the autopsy report from from February 14th before they could indict the suspects on March 6th. Okay. So we know that 7 people were indicted. Let's take a look now at some of their arraignments, just kind of clipped together. They all pled not guilty.
Profile murder investigation happening right now in the Valley. Yesterday, 6 suspects were indicted on murder charges in the beating death of Preston Lord. Preston was only 16 when he was attacked and killed by a gang of youths during a Halloween party in Queen Creek. Lord died of his injuries 2 days after being assaulted. According to family, he had a severe brain injury. Now, 4 months later, William Hines, Dominic Turner, Taylor Sherman, Talon Red.
A question that just popped into my head, because people were asking this during the Jennifer Crumbly trial, James Crumbly trial, and Hannah Reed trial, Hannah Gutierrez Reed trial. Do we think anybody else will be indicted? Will parents be indicted? Should they have known? Should they have done something to stop it? Was there a history of this? Will parents be sued? Probably, because again, the civil and criminal aspects are different. If you guys have questions about that or want more of a discussion on it, let me know in the comments and we can talk about it. But it is interesting to think if these friends had a reputation, as one of them said, and they had, beaten other people, was there something they should have done, could have done? Should they have known? Was this the natural and necessary result of their action or inaction? Are we going to start to apply facts like this to things like happened in the Ethan, James, and Jennifer Crumbly situation with the school shooting? Those are all open questions at this point.
Talon Vigil, and Jacob Meisner, all facing charges of first-degree murder and kidnapping in Lord's death. Renner, Vigil, and Meisner are minors being charged as adults. Meisner also faces aggravated robbery charges. Let's head out to 12 News journalist Bianca.
So Meisner, I believe, faces those aggravated robbery charges because he's the one that snatched the gold chain. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute.
Ona, who's live in Queen Creek with the latest. Bianca?
Trim, we were here last night as Queen Creek Police and the County Attorney's Office announced the indictments of 4 suspects, today confirming 2 additional suspects. And authorities tell us their investigation isn't over yet.
Taylor Sherman, William Hines, Dominic Turner.
Suspects accused of killing 16-year-old Preston Lord appearing in court Thursday morning, facing first-degree murder charges.
You were charged with 1 count of murder in the first degree, a class 1 felony, and 1 count of kidnapping.
During hearings for the adult suspect.
And I believe at this point, all 7 have been charged with kidnapping and with first-degree murder. And then Meisner's the one that has the aggravated theft charge, I think, that we're going to look at in a second.
20-year-old Dominic Turner, 19-year-old Taylor Sherman, and 18-year-old William Hines, an attorney representing Preston Lord's family, speaking out.
Preston was a popular student.
So I guess this is not the state. This is, and they said it in the other video too. I wasn't sure if they were wrong or what, but the lawyer for Preston Lord's family. So they already have a lawyer, similar to the victims in Brian Koberger's case. They got a lawyer very early on. We've talked a lot about how having a lawyer representing the victims can do a lot of good. It can be a voice. They know the system. They know the process. They can insert themselves and really help make their voice heard. Maybe they're a civil attorney too. Maybe there's civil lawsuits against some of these families or some of these kids or their parents or, wherever this happened, if there was negligent security, whatever it may be, there could be accompanying civil lawsuits that this lawyer may or may not be handling as well. But it's always very helpful for an attorney that represents the family to come, make sure their voices are heard. And it sounds like she did speak at each indictment to discuss how horrible this is, discuss how great of a kid Preston Lord was, so the judge can understand what they're dealing with in setting these bond amounts.
who served on his student council.
Preston Lord's family speaking out.
Preston was a popular student who served on his student council. He was also a three-sport athlete. More important than these factors, Your Honor, he was a son, a brother, a grandson, a nephew, a cousin, and a friend to many.
The prosecution providing new details about what they allege the suspects did after attacking Lord outside a Halloween party in Queen Creek on October 28th, including possible collusion to cover up their crimes, attempting to destroy evidence, and threaten witnesses.
This defendant specifically did flee from the scene. He was also involved in either the destruction or the attempted destruction of evidence and colluded with others about the potential story. He did take evidence from the scene.
This afternoon in
They're
juvenile
all also
court.
accused of, tampering with evidence, removing evidence, talking to each other, trying to get their story straight. I mean, if you think some criminal defendants in the past have done dumb things, trying to cover something up or do something that could be caught searching something on their phone, I can only imagine what a bunch of teenage boys were doing, trying to cover this up, get their story straight, make sure they don't get indicted for first-degree murder. So my guess is we're going to hear more about that as the cases continue. They fled, they ran away. Did they try to destroy things? Did they try to destroy their phones? Did they talk to each other? Did they threaten any witnesses? Did they try to get any of their friends that were there as witnesses to get on their side, get stories straight? Did they destroy anything? Those are going to be big questions that I assume we're going to get some information that at least some of that happened in this case.
Callan Vigil was ordered held on a $1 million secured appearance bond, and the judge decided he will be housed in MCSO custody, not juvenile detention. Talon Renner and Jacob Meisner also set to face a judge. They all will be charged as adults.
Have a warrant. Talon Renner.
These court appearances come after dramatic.
That's pretty crazy that they went in. They announced it over the loudspeaker in his neighborhood.
Police activity across the East Valley Wednesday as Queen Creek's Special Assignments Unit rolled into neighborhoods
Which is
looking
basically like SWAT.
to arrest the suspects. 12 News attempting to speak with suspects' families, many who can see orange ribbons in support of Preston Lord from their front windows.
So that's pretty wild. But that's what's going on. A lot of public interest. I assume that's why a lot of you sent this to me. We're going to look at one document as well to talk about kind of the theft and the chain snatching, but really interesting case. And it's also something they could potentially seek the death penalty on. They're being charged as adults. So we'll look into how Arizona law deals with that, but pretty wild and a lot of different implications on what they're charged with, how they're charged, their age, their juveniles being tried as adults, potential death penalty cases. So I want to know what your guys' questions are and what you want to know about this case specifically. And Justin Lum, who was the reporter, I think, in the first video that was discussing the case, posted this on his Twitter. And, he's got a lot of information on there if you guys are following it. And it says the grand jurors, there was a grand jury indictment of Maricopa County, Arizona, accused Tristan John Biley, Dominic Turner, William Owen Hines, Taylor Sherman, Talon Renner, Jacob Meisner, and Talon Renner on March 6th, 2024, charging that in Maricopa County, Arizona, Dominic Turner and or Tristan Billy and or Jacob Ryan Meisner. So maybe they don't know exactly who stole the chain on or about October 28, 2023, in the course of taking property of another from victim A's person or immediate presence and against his will, used threats or force against victim A with intent to coerce surrender of the property or to prevent resistance to Dominic Turner and or Tristan Biley and or Jacob Meisner's taking or retaining the property, while Dominic Turner and Tristan Bailey and Jacob Meisner were aided by one or more accomplices actually present in violation of this statute. So we don't believe that Preston Lord was the person, by all reports, whose chain it actually was. But these three, somebody took it. The other two basically were his accomplices. And I don't know if that's how this is going to be, right? And are we going to think that that's fair and appropriate if somebody stood by and watched while 6 other people beat somebody up, or 4 people watched while 3 people beat somebody up? Should they have the same charges as accomplices? What did they do? With the Derek Chauvin situation with the other law enforcement officers that were involved, some were more intimately involved. Others were kind of further out of the scene. So how do we charge these? Is it fair? What should their punishments be? What should the plea agreements be if they flip and testify against somebody else? Those will be questions I assume are coming in this case as we continue to follow it, if it is one that you all as the audience want to follow. So this was kind of just a brief overview to get you up to date. Things are happening, lots of witnesses, lots of suspects, lots of people indicted. But I want to know what you want to know from me specifically on this case. I'm not an investigator. I'm not a journalist. I will focus on the legal process, the law, what the prosecutors are doing, the criminal defense attorneys are doing, the lawyers for the families, the judges. That's what I will focus on most in my channel. If you guys are new here and don't know how we do things, I'm not going to try to figure out who done it. I'm going to try to figure out what's going on, what evidence they have, how it'll be presented, how it'll be used, how the rules work, why they're charged as adults versus juveniles, how the death penalty works, why the process is taking so long, how the judge makes bail decisions based on danger to the community, prior crimes, flight risk, their ties to the community. All of those things are important. We talked about those. We saw the lawyers talking about those in the bail hearings, and all of their cash bonds, from all reports I've seen, are still $1 million. I'm sure if you guys know something else, because you've been following this case from day one, you'll let me know in the comments. This is just kind of my brief overview and first look at the case, because I'm interested in what you guys are interested in. So let me know in the comments. I appreciate you guys joining me. Make sure you subscribe and like the video if this is a case you want us to start following. Till next time, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And don't forget to check out the Lawyer You Know podcast with new seasons dropping every quarter. If you have a case you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, the Lawyer You Know.